Department of Labor has determined that you have received an overpayment of unemployment insurance benefits.
The letter demanded Gina Cross return $250 to the state, alleging she'd received an overpayment in unemployment benefits. Problem is, she's never applied nor ever received an ounce of unemployment benefits.
I've been working at the same place since 2018.
Cross believes she's been a victim of identity theft and fears the state has been shelling out unemployment benefits to a thief. In fact, according to a new state audit, in the past 5 years, the state has shelled out millions of dollars in overpayments to recipients who should never have received them. And according to the audit, the state did not timely pursue recovery of claimant overpayments totaling $807.4 million, resulting in up to $760.7 million that no longer can be collectible.
What's going on, everyone? Sarsa King here today, and we're going to talk about fraud again, because who would have thought that highlighting Minnesota fraud, right, and how a lot of immigrants, illegal and legal, were using and abusing the taxpayer system and government services to enrich themselves and send money back to their country, which is falling in the hands of terrorists possibly, would spark the amount of outrage and fury that we see from the Democrats and the liberal leftist protesters that are out here causing chaos in Minnesota, disruption in Minnesota over illegals scamming the system. Crazy work, right? Politicians trying to manipulate the public into hating ICE, right? Try to tell you that Somali fraud isn't real. Sorry, I almost talked leering, right? But when you see it, you see the correlation it's inexplicable what's going on here. Democrats defend it because they benefit from it. That's it. Based on the actions that I observed, that is the clearest motivation that I see. Because in this segment, I'm going to show you Nick Shirley, he's back again, part 2. This time he's focusing on transportation fraud. And this is why I'm going to hone in on the smoke screen and the deflection tactics that many people are using to try to downplay or completely dismiss that fraud is happening, because it's hurting our budget, right? If you look at our federal budget, right? If you look at us from a national level, right? I'm going to show you something. Now that the public has digested the reality of Somali fraud in Minnesota, Trump is shifting focus to what fraud is really about, which is election fraud. Now, you can have your disagreements or agreements about that, but the Dems are stealing election by massive fraud in just a handful of counties per share, requiring non-IDs to vote in elections, okay? I'm just saying, like, they told us, hey, fraud's not happening. And then it took a guy with a video and a guy doing his own independent research to spark more investigations into this stuff, right? And you already know the priorities, right? The cynical politics, I already show you, right? We see that we have one of the largest budgets in the world, but almost allegedly $2.5 trillion are going to debt services and fraud. Almost half of the total spending. Almost 10% of our federal budget is going through fraud. That's the impact. That's what the Democrats don't want to look into. That's what the Democrats don't want to fill up holes in. And I showed you an example with the intro. Maryland. Lady, someone stole her identity and applied unemployment benefits in her name. No investigation by the government. No follow-up. Hey, we saw that you sent an application for unemployment, but we're seeing here that you filed taxes the year that you received unemployment. Is this true? Like, no follow-up, no monitoring, just let it happen, to the point where almost 90% of the money that was fraudulently taken from the taxpayer in Maryland can no longer be collected anymore. And Maryland happens to be what? A blue state city. Correlation? Like, come on, guys. Come on. This is something that we have to take seriously, right? And I think Donald Trump has a good case here. So I'm going to show you a clip of Donald Trump, announcing that starting February 1st of 2026, sanctuary cities will lose access to federal funds.
We're giving 90-day notices to places like California, Scott. Right away, we're going to send out that notice. Who would bill the federal government as people poured into the state? to send those people back because no country can afford to do it. No country can afford to take in millions of people, pay for their education, their health care, their hospitals. You just can't do it. And we all have a heart. You can't do it. But many of those people are murderers. They're people released from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums. They're people that are drug dealers. They're addicts. Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary.
Didn't change within the government as the Fed sent thousands of federal agents to Minnesota, and the HHS froze over $185 million in all payments to childcare. And while politicians like Tim Walz call people like me white supremacist and far-right delusional conspiracy theorists for exposing the fraud, meanwhile, he actually dropped out of running for re-election. The Minnesota fraud scandal has erupted the nation as protests and riots took place, all starting because daycares like Quality Learning Center were exposed. However, the daycares is only a small portion of the fraud taking place in Minnesota. In this video, I will take you into what has continued to allow this fraud to happen and connect all of the dots for you, exposing all of the fraud from strange connections of the business owners and the politicians who have openly admitted to the fraud on live TV. And to dive deep into the fraud, I met back up with the local David, who has been investigating this widespread fraud scandal for years. So here in Minnesota, you have daycare fraud, you have adult daycare fraud, you have healthcare fraud, and you even have more fraud. What's some of the fraud that's also taking place here inside of Minnesota?
Well, what I think might be sort of the heart of the beast here is this transportation fraud. And what I mean by that is in Minnesota, we have something called non-emergency medical transportation, NEMT. My research has shown that there are about 1,020 such companies in Minnesota, and more than 90% of them are Somali owned.
So we heard all that, right? So you got these transportation fraud, right? These companies claiming that they're here to transport people for medical, not a health reason, right? And you found out that 90% of them are owned by Somali immigrants or somewhere of Somali descent, right? That's not a red flag to you, right? We see that as a problem when we see that crime, right? Black people are disproportionately in jail, right? Many leftists will see that as a problem. But when the right points out the disparities of, hey, all these people from a certain community are starting these companies, right? They're accused of fraud. There's evidence to suggest that people of this community are also bribed into helping these people. These fraudsters also donate to the Democratic Party. You saw from the clips that Nick Shirley put out. And what the Somalian people are trying to do is try to frame Nick as a racist because he's pointing out that disparity. So by your logic, I should call anyone a racist for noticing that black men are disproportionately in jail compared to their population numbers as a whole. How is 13% of the population making up more than half of prisons in the United States? This guy here will call me a racist for noticing that. Make it make sense. The rebuttal will be, Kenny, we just noticed a cause. Hey, black people commit disproportional crime, therefore they're going to be in jail disproportionately. Correct. So if we're looking at it, hey, we saw that 90% of people convicted of fraud happen to be of Somalian descent. And now we see the same pattern everywhere. Doesn't warrant an investigation? Nope. Don't want to talk about logic. Don't want to talk about facts. Let's call them names. Let's call them a racist. Let's get them deflected. Let's try to create a narrative. And this is not working. These tactics are not working anymore. But, without further ado, enough of my talking.
Why are you sensationalizing the propaganda?
What are we sensationalizing?
To attack our community. What's your final objective?
We're not attacking your community by any means.
Are you making good money from this?
We're looking for fraud.
No,
for instance, can you answer our question? Where's Safari Transportation Company 607? It's not there.
How
and why don't you answer?
How much money are
why don't you answer The
How much
question,
money
where's
are you
617
making?
Dreamline Security?
How much money are you making?
I make money
this?
off of YouTube. That's how I make my money.
Exactly. So you're making money off of sensationalizing.
That my job
and attacking
is.
the Somali community.
I'm not attacking you guys. We're asking.
I'll tell you the
fraud
reason
is
why
fraud,
this is
sir.
happening. All right. Let me
David,
tell you the reason why
fraud
you're
is fraud,
this.
correct?
Yes.
This has nothing to do with race. This is fraud.
This
is fraud.
absolutely has to do with us being Muslim.
No, it does not.
All right, and us being from Africa. This is a constitutional argument. If you don't want us here, change the freedom of religion. Say, listen, you don't want Muslims.
What? Change the freedom of religion. Like, no one's changing nothing. Man came for a specific purpose. Hey, I'm looking for this company. I can't find this company. You're going out of your way to confront him, and you're trying to put words in his mouth, right? You're trying to assume his motives, his intentions, when the reality speaks for itself. He went viral for pointing out fraud. Your community happens to be disproportionately represented in the fraud. He didn't disparage you based on what I saw. He didn't disparage you or your community. I think no one has done that. Everyone's just noticing a pattern. Hey, it's kind of weird that this small population of people in Minneapolis or Minnesota or wherever the hell you guys are, from Washington State, from Ohio, you guys are overrepresented in creating these services for these government funds. People are finding it suspicious, and people want investigations into it. And this comes across more like you're trying to defend your community because you know your community might be guilty of wrongdoing here. But, I digress.
In this country anymore.
We're not saying that.
No.
We're not saying that.
When I go
Sir,
onto
we're
your
talking
comments,
about fraud. You're talking.
When I go onto your comments,
My comments.
what
aren't
I see
me.
is people that say we do not want Muslims here. Kick every single Muslim in Minnesota out of Minnesota.
That's a comment.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're
preparing for the Somali community to maybe be taken to concentration camps, just like
How?
the Japanese community. All
How?
right, you're sensationalizing.
No, we're not.
All right,
Sir,
something that
answer
can
the
listen.
question. Where is the transportation
something
vehicle
that can
company?
jeopardize
Answer the question.
safety and the protection of the Somali
fraud.
community.
We're talking
if
about
anything
fraud, sir.
happens to the Somali
We're talking
community,
about fraud.
listen, I'm not doing anything. I'm not physically touching
You're
her.
getting very close.
I'm not physically touching her. No, I'm not physically touching her.
This is fraud.
What
We're talking
you're
about
doing,
fraud.
what you're doing,
You're
what
defending
doing,
fraud. You're
when I go
defending
into your
fraud.
comments,
You're defending fraud.
People who hate Muslims.
And this is one thing, like with these, like when you're trying to have a conversation, you always have to try to acknowledge what someone is saying before you go, because it just looks like you're just trying to steamroll and just perpetuate a narrative. And that's what he's kind of coming across to me, right? He's trying to frame this as if, oh, you're inviting violence. Oh, create this mass hysteria. Oh, look, you're trying to attack us. You're trying to get us sent out of the country. No, we're going to look for fraud, and it just happens to make your community look bad because a lot of the people from your community are participating in this fraudulent thing that could be happening. And all he's asking for is investigations. Let's look more into this. And he sees a pattern recognition because, end of the day, only your community is outraged about what's going on with the fraud and the attention that the government fraud is going on with. I told you in prior videos that Zion Baptist Church, same thing. They were accused of fraud. No Somalians came out and defend them. But all these other companies, y'all quick to defend. It almost seems like you benefit from this. You benefit from the fraud. And you're seeing that your gravy train might come to an end. So this is why you're trying to perpetuate this narrative that somehow Nick Shirley is going to radicalize people to attack Somalians when people are mad about the fraud, that people are out there scamming American taxpayers, regardless if those American Somalians, ever Nigerian Americans. No one cares about the skin color or nationality of the people committing the fraud. Americans want fraud gone because of the amount of weight and anchor that it is on our national budget. But let's wrap up the video.
Okay,
Want us out of here
people can say
for
what they
being
want.
Muslim,
I'm not censoring anybody.
Are using your material. Islamophobes use your material. People who hate Islam use your material. Say to us, we don't want you here. Change the Constitution. But guess what? Let me tell you something. Guess what?
Say it. We're asking about
You
fraud.
know,
We're asking about fraud.
You hate Muslims.
I'm not saying I hate Muslims. We're talking about.
You hate Muslims because people who defraud our system, who are disproportionately who happen to be part of my community, you are bringing attention to what they're doing, and it's making us look bad. So therefore, you hate Muslims. Instead of holding accountable the Somalians that committed the fraud and brought this attention to your community, I believe your community should have been like, we don't stand with them. They defrauded the American system. They also defrauded us, and we don't condone this. Your community is not doing that. Instead, your community is doing what you're doing, trying to frame this as somehow being a racist attack on your whole community, and no one of your ilk is really condemning this stuff. That's what we're noticing. And it gives more credence to this idea that a lot of you guys are getting paid under the table from these fraudsters to help out with the fraud. And it seems like the only people using your services are people within your community. So you're getting government money, and only your people are using the services that are started by the companies started by your community. Like, make it make sense. People are going to find that suspicious. Oh, I go to the Quality Learning Center, and I'm like, hey, I want to register my kid. I don't look Somalian. You reject me. Make that make sense. But we're the racist ones, right? Oh, you hate Muslims? No. You are assuming that. You're trying to cast that narrative because you can't defend what's going on. So you're trying to deflect by trying to label this guy, somehow read into his motives and say that he's after a certain group of communities when he was after fraud, and it just so happens to make your community look bad. He can't control the outcome of all that. He can't control what people say on their comment section. Oh, you're a Islamophobe, and you're defending scammers. Like, he could play the same game you're doing. You're defending these people because you know they're committing fraud. You possibly benefit from it. Your community possibly benefits from this because there's reports that you guys are being paid under the table. A lot of Somalians are being paid under the table to go along with this fraud. It's enriching your community, and that's why you're defending it. He could do the same thing. He could read into your motives too. But I digress. I honestly think, these people are running scared right now because they're not used to this level of attention. And all the rioting, kind of, the CNN people, they were quick to jump on this because this is a way that they can deflect from this stuff, right? But I think we can't lose focus on this. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this back up again, because seeing how violently Minnesotans, protesters, and leftists are going at ICE, it just shows that what Trump is doing and what we're doing is effective. They don't like the fact that they have nothing. This is the only card they have left. Outrage, protest, and anarchy. Slander, shaming. Try to discredit this man. And he's still going strong. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comments. I'd really be interested to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.